It was a chilly afternoon in Manhattan, the heart of New York City. Barron Trump, casually strolling down the busy sidewalk with his bodyguard, was unaware that his life would soon take an unexpected turn. Amid the hustle and bustle, a sudden commotion caught his attention. A crowd had gathered in the middle of the street, but instead of curiosity, there was something else, an air of indifference. As Barron neared the crowd, he saw the reason for the gathering. A man, thin and ragged, had collapsed on the sidewalk, his face pale and eyes closed. The onlookers simply stared, some muttering amongst themselves, but no one was rushing to help. Barron's instincts kicked in. Without a second thought, he pushed his way through the crowd. His father had always taught him that true strength wasn't in wealth or power, but in showing compassion, especially when others turned away. Barron knelt down beside the man who was barely breathing. The moment was tense, but Barron remained calm, his voice steady as he spoke to the man. "Hang on, help is on the way," he murmured. Barron immediately reached for his phone, calling for an ambulance while keeping his focus on the man. As the ambulance arrived, Barron stood back watching as paramedics rushed to save the man's life. His heart raced, not just from the urgency of the moment, but from something deeper. The brief glance he caught of the man's face before he was loaded into the ambulance revealed a look of desperation, a man who had been pushed to his limits. But there was something more, something Barron couldn't ignore. What would you do if you saw someone in need like Barron did? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this. As Barron watched the ambulance drive away, something caught his eye. A small, crumpled piece of paper that had fallen from the collapsed man's jacket. It was tucked into the dirt and unnoticed by the paramedics or the crowd. Barron, sensing the importance of the moment, bent down and picked it up. The note was worn, its edges frayed, but the words written on it were clear. "Please, take care of my daughter, Lily. She's all I have left. I'm sorry." The weight of the words hit Barron like a wave. He looked around, his eyes scanning the crowd. Everyone had already dispersed, as if it were just another fleeting moment in the chaos of the city, but Barron couldn't let it go. The man had collapsed right in front of him, and now this note, this desperate plea for help. Barron's heart sank. A child named Lily, left without her father. Barron felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. This wasn't just about helping a stranger in need. This was about a life left hanging in the balance, a little girl who might be all alone. He slipped the note into his pocket and, without hesitation, began to walk toward the street corner. Barron's mind raced with questions. Who was this man? How had he ended up here, so broken and alone? And more importantly, where was his daughter? He couldn't just leave things as they were, not after seeing that note. The following day, Barron couldn't stop thinking about the note. He knew he had to find this girl, Lily. He spent hours scouring the city, asking around, and even visiting local shelters, trying to piece together any information he could about her. It wasn't easy. The city was vast, and Lily's story seemed lost among the thousands of others. Just as he was about to give up, Barron received a tip. A worker at a nearby shelter mentioned seeing a young girl, about 8 years old, coming in to get food the day before. The description matched what Barron had been told, and his heart quickened. He thanked the worker and quickly made his way to the run-down apartment building mentioned. Arriving at the building, Barron was struck by its dilapidated state. Graffiti covered the walls and the smell of decay hung in the air. He made his way up to the 3rd floor, where he was told the girl lived. As he knocked on the door, he could hear the faint sound of footsteps approaching. The door creaked open, revealing a small, frail girl standing in front of him. She had wide, innocent eyes and unkempt hair, her clothes threadbare but her spirit unbroken. Barron's heart melted as he introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Barron. I'm here to help you." Lily stared up at him for a long moment, unsure of what to say. She wasn't used to strangers offering kindness. Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm a friend of your father," Barron explained gently. "I found him yesterday. He's in the hospital now. He wanted me to make sure you're okay." Lily's face softened at the mention of her father, and Barron could see the flicker of hope in her eyes. But there was also fear. Fear of what might happen next, of losing her only family. "I'll help you, Lily. I promise," Barron said, kneeling down to her level. "I won't leave you alone. You're not alone anymore." For the first time in what felt like forever, Lily allowed herself to hope. As Barron continued to spend time with Lily, he began to learn more about her father, Ethan. Lily spoke little, but the pieces of her story fell into place. Ethan had been a military contractor overseas, involved in sensitive operations that had long since spiraled into danger. His past was murky, and there were whispers of corrupt individuals who had been looking for him for a long time. Barron knew that Ethan's life wasn't just at risk. It was a ticking clock, one that could lead to serious consequences for both Ethan and his daughter. Barron spent the next few days researching Ethan's background, diving deep into the man's past. He discovered that Ethan had been working in an unstable region, dealing with highly dangerous people who had now turned their attention to him. After a failed mission, Ethan had made enemies in high places, powerful figures who wouldn't hesitate to go after anyone associated with him, including Lily. It was then that Barron realized the full weight of the promise he had made to Lily. She wasn't just an innocent child in need of care, she was also in direct danger, targeted because of her father's involvement in something far bigger than both of them. Barron had to act fast. He couldn't risk letting Lily be caught in the crossfire of a situation she had no part in. But protecting her wasn't going to be easy. The forces against them were powerful, and Barron knew he would have to outsmart them if he were to keep Lily safe. Determined to protect Lily, Barron began making discreet arrangements. He contacted trusted friends and allies, using his family's connections to discreetly gather information on the dangerous people after Ethan. Barron knew that the only way to ensure their safety was to stay one step ahead. He began working with a small group of experts who specialized in security and intelligence. They devised a plan to keep Lily and her father hidden while Barron worked behind the scenes to confront those threatening them. In the meantime, Barron took Lily to a safe house, an anonymous, fortified location far from the prying eyes of the city. Lily was still reeling from the sudden change, from the unknown dangers that seemed to be lurking around every corner. She had gone from living in a rundown apartment to being whisked away into an unknown world of safety and secrecy. Barron, who had been silent about the full details of the situation, tried to keep her calm, reassuring her with simple, comforting words. "You're safe here. No one can hurt you." For the first time in days, Barron allowed himself a moment to breathe. But it didn't last long. As Barron's team worked to gather more intelligence, they uncovered something even more dangerous. Ethan had been betrayed by someone close to him, a former ally turned adversary, now working with the corrupt forces that had been hunting him. It became clear that it wasn't just Ethan and Lily at risk. The stakes were much higher than Barron had originally realized. Barron's mission was now twofold: protect Lily and Ethan, and expose the forces that had put them in harm's way. It would take all of Barron's cunning and resources, but he was prepared to fight for them, no matter what it took. Days turned into weeks, and Barron's determination never wavered. The tension was palpable as he navigated through a web of danger, deception, and corruption. Using his connections, he managed to gather enough evidence to expose the individuals behind the plot to harm Ethan and Lily. But it wasn't enough to just have the information. Barron needed to ensure their safety before he made a move. In a final act of defiance against the people threatening them, Barron orchestrated a plan to take down the dangerous figures behind Ethan's betrayal. With the help of his trusted team, they created a covert operation to gather more concrete evidence, forcing the corrupt individuals to face justice. The operation was risky, but Barron knew it was the only way to stop the cycle of violence that had gripped Ethan and Lily's lives. As Barron and his team closed in on their targets, the danger escalated. A close call in the midst of the operation left Barron shaken but determined. He knew that any misstep could put Lily's life in jeopardy, but he pushed forward, refusing to let fear control his actions. Finally, after weeks of tense planning and careful execution, Barron's efforts culminated in a public takedown of the corrupt figures who had been pulling the strings. The authorities moved in, and the criminal empire was dismantled. Ethan and Lily were safe. Barron watched from a distance as Lily was reunited with her father. There were no grand speeches or moments of celebration, just a quiet, heartfelt moment between a father and his daughter. Barron had kept his promise, and the impact of his actions would ripple through their lives forever. As the dust settled and life began to return to a semblance of normalcy, Barron took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought him here. He had witnessed firsthand the power of kindness, the strength of a promise, and the lengths one would go to for someone they barely knew. It had started with a simple, heartbreaking note, a plea for help from a man who had no other options. But Barron's actions had set off a chain of events that would change the lives of Ethan and Lily forever. Lily, once a scared and isolated little girl, was now thriving. With Barron's support, she was enrolled in a better school, and her future looked brighter than ever. Ethan, freed from the shadow of his past, was able to rebuild his life with his daughter by his side. Together they started a new chapter, one built on trust, love, and the gratitude they felt for Barron's unwavering commitment to their safety and happiness. For Barron, the experience had opened his eyes to the profound impact one person's actions could have on others. He wasn't a superhero, and he didn't have extraordinary powers. He was simply someone who chose to act with compassion when the world around him seemed indifferent. Barron knew that the journey had changed him too. It had taught him that even the smallest acts of kindness could leave a lasting legacy. As he walked away from the reunion, Barron felt a sense of peace that had eluded him for so long. His work wasn't done. He would continue to help others, to fight for what was right, and to spread the message that kindness could change the world. For Barron Trump, the story of Ethan and Lily was just one example of how compassion could overcome even the darkest challenges. And as for Lily and her father, they would forever remember the young man who had shown them that, no matter how hopeless life may seem, there was always someone willing to lend a hand, and that kindness could heal even the deepest wounds.